The next phase of Glowtica, and I'm well aware that what Unix Mad and his thieves, who were not a part of Graal's creation and have no idea what Graal is, have done to Graal. And they've turned it into a casino of skinning, where they skin your hearts, they skin your statistical menus, your on-screen GUIs, they screen your players' heads over and over and over endlessly in new hats and new morphs and this and this and this and this and that. There's no, like, it's not even a game, you guys. Like, these people have turned this community into shit. So the only person who's going to continue to be able to tell the story is myself. Stefan can't do it. Unixmad can't do it. Pachuca's gone, and he skipped out on the next 2 years of the official creation of Graal Classic. He skipped it out. And time had nothing to do with it. Time started perverting everything and turning it into something nonsense. So the only person who can do this is myself. So here's Glowtica. I'm going to continue pushing and just creating it. And this is officially what it is. There is nobody else who can do this besides myself. And so past all of the skinning and all of the little, let's try to make kids buy more stuff with their parents' money that all these weirdos who are trying to make Graal out to be now, which has nothing to do with what Graal actually is, we have here this unfolding of actual content and stories that matter, not random people who came decades or a decade or more later. So we have the corner of the... And this is technically a swastika. It's not really a Nazi swastika, although I do like the idea of underground Nazi ruins or underwater Nazi ruins being kind of a theme here. Mostly it's kind of a twist on... So the swastika has a number of interpretations. So there's underwater Nazi ruins, and there's also the Hindu swastika. So there's a lot of inspiration drawn on a swastika. So what this is an ancient civilization of decadence and power that has been lost to time, similar to Atlantis. So Atlantis never actually existed. Atlantis was a mythological place in Plato's allegory. You can look it up and all the details on it on your own, but it was an allegory. It was never a real place. Atlantis was never a real place, but we can still draw on the myth of it because I think it's become something mythical. So what I wanted to do was keep pushing for developments on here, and I decided to make this the Gauli as well. So what we have here is the Gauli comes from Lucadeja down through here, and then it continues through here. How and where that comes about, I don't know. Maybe it's two separate, sedimentary trenches, and there just happen to be the name. There's a lot of streets where they're separated, but they're still the same name. So I'm thinking something possibly like that. At the center, what I wanted to do was put Galen's chaotic castle. So Galen was the god of chaos, and I think that this mythology needs to be brought back up so that the underwater world is a feature of Freaked and Galen, whereas, Destiny is representative of Pachuca and Antago. And then you also have other stuff up north if you're including the other Graal map, which I'm not talking about right now. I do want to put Galen's chaotic castle in the center here, and this is going to be like right here, and these can also be parts of the castle, but they can be like offshoot pillars and things. And I think that the castle needs to really like stand tall and interesting. I'm not exactly sure how I want that to be, but I was maybe picturing, and I'm not sure if I do it here or somewhere else, but I was possibly picturing some type of temple surrounded by black clouds of wind. It's like particle black clouds that are swirling and filled with like rainstorms that are constantly perpetually falling down over top of it. So you can't get through it at first. It's just in the midst of this black clouds. And I want it to be huge. I want it to be massive. And I want Lycia over here, her house, to be basically a small ruins of... In the past, it'll be not ruins, but in the water, it'll be small ruins. Rather than just a house, I want it to be like a small ruins inspired by the ancient city of Lycia. And I want Lycia to be like an Amazonian type character, and she probably has some soldiers and minions that are guarding the area. And so this could possibly be a part of Lycia also helping to connect it to this castle here. And I want this massive castle to be hard to get through. So you might have to walk around it for a while. Each of the arms of the swastika I have named Earth and Space up here in the top right corner. In the bottom right corner, I have Wind and Time. This is Fire and Matter. In this southwest, I should say. In the northwest, it's Water and Mind. So there's going to be themes of water and mind permeating this arm of the world. And then through here is going to represent Earth and space. This is going to represent wind and time. And this is going to represent fire and matter. So we can draw on these, and possibly there's some type of reversal situation where when it's in the future and it's underwater, it's kind of reversed. So the Earth and space have lost its power, and maybe that gets echoed in the stories and the content. And the same thing with wind and time here. It gets reversed slightly in the future when it's underwater, and then when you go back in time, things are more in line with this. But that also brings us back to the Temple of Insanity in Augmatarsh, where the purple Graal, which is the Graal of Time, gets obtained and acquired. Now, Galen's Chaotic Castle, I'm not really sure what to do there. Maybe there's another Graal there that you have to get, or something else, some type of item. I haven't fleshed that out entirely. But I do think that there should be Galen's Chaotic Castle here, and it's just like a world of chaos. And this chaos has ruled this area for quite some time. And so you will likely have to defeat Freak's Temple of Insanity in the future, and then go back in time and defeat Galen's Chaotic Castle as well in the past. And so the land will be different, and possibly in the past it's ruled by Galen's Chaotic Castle, and in the future it's the whole world's kind of slightly ruled by the Spiderweb and Temple of Insanity. So you're going to have like dungeons here, a dungeon here, massive temple dungeons, I should say. I think this castle needs to be grand and very, very difficult. Same thing with Pachuca's palace and things going on in Destiny. That needs to be very, very difficult. The Lycia ruins here, this could be a small temple or area of sorts, or not temple, but dungeon of sorts type area where you have to overcome it and conquer it and solve different puzzles and figure out different characters and learn different things, and maybe even like adventure around in order to eventually defeat the Lycia ruin. So I think maybe when you first encounter it, there's kind of a smokescreen here of Lycia's personality. You don't really realize it's a place that's going to be fallen and you're going to have to defeat it. When it comes to Gandarian, so Gandarian is, I think, another strong main character contender alongside Armageddon. So in Gandarian, I want to be a strong rival to Azrael. So wherever Azrael's dungeon would be, I don't know if it's, I don't want to shove everything into one place. I do realize this is like the only unconquered territory of the original Graal Classic. So I don't want to just, for lore's sake, just start shoving Azrael and other people's stuff in one place. Maybe it's up there in Pachuca's levels. Maybe at some point there is a sequel that is just a new part of the world. There is the Sky World, if I can get a hold of those files at some points, which I'd like to put Cygnus' stuff in. I've mentioned before. I don't think Azrael's temple, or whatever you want to call it, or dungeon would work best up there. But I do think that maybe as this plateau gets built out, it would be better to figure out what that's going to be later. So I think just to start, I think having Galen's Chaotic Castle, this magnificent nightmare that rules the land in the past, and where everything's kind of upside down, where Galen rules it with this illusory lie of controlling the world, and just everything is backward and chaotic. I think that that's going to fit in well, especially with the future theme here where everything's underwater and a lot of information is lost and being confused, and other things are being confused by Viper, who spreads lies, and other things like the Temple of Insanity are reflective of this idea of mashup of information and things being mixed up and confusing. In Waygraph's little area here, I don't know if that's... So I think this name is from a place or a character in another video game. So I don't know if I want to continue with this spelling. I don't even know if he spelled it that way originally. I think it might have been EI. I think he might have misspelled it. I'm not sure. But I think what I want to do is maybe just just for temporary, and I don't really like doing this, but I think temporarily just to avoid having a character's name from another game, unless this is an ancient name that they borrowed from some type of mythology, then we could go there. But I want you to think of it as the word way graph. So I think what you can do here is you come in through here and you can get a graph, which is like a map of the world itself. And what you're able to do with the way graph after you defeat way graph's area, and I think this also needs to be a weird dungeon. I think all of these need to be severely difficult dungeons, and I don't think you can do it all through one clean sweep. I think that you need to go in like forward in time and backward in time and do all kinds of things to get through the spider's web. And I don't think so. Like I don't think it's linear is what I'm saying. I don't think you go through Viper, then here, then here, then here, then here, then here, all the way up to King Clops. I think that you go through Vipers first, you get something, and then there's more stuff you need to finish throughout the world and everywhere else, whether it's Glowtica and other regions, and then you can get to Waygraph and complete the next very large dungeon, and crawling through the different holes and the different caverns and I don't know what you want to call them, catacombs and things. So I think that you end up getting through, it goes above ground and underground, and there's things just all over through here, like wormholing all the way around. I think that Waygraph will be after Viper, but not sequentially in terms of chronology. I think it needs to be Viper first after you do a bunch of stuff to get to the Viper Den first. And then you end up having to do a bunch more stuff through time, in the future, in the past, and then you end up being able to get to Waygraphs after. And the same thing with these other places. You have to continually, you're basically chipping away at this area while there's many other dungeons and stuff you have to solve and other puzzles and quests. So, yeah, this isn't just going to be just like, oh, here I go, bing, 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 ooh, here I am. It needs to be much more labyrinthine. And so the same thing with when you get to Spider's Lair. And I don't think that the spider or Spider's Lair needs to look like this spider, just to be clear. I think that these spiders can be everywhere just because they're classic. But I think that the spider himself, it needs to be freaking spooky. It needs to be horrific. Like, it needs to be weird and difficult. And a mega boss. And there needs to be a massive dungeon when you get to Spider's Lair. I think this needs to be one of the biggest dungeons of the area. But anyway, what you end up getting at the Waygraph is a map of the entire world itself. And on the map, you can use centaur blood, and you can get like a quill. I'm not sure exactly the best place to find a quill, but you can get a quill. And maybe you can't get a quill at first. Maybe what you get at first with Waygraphs is it's kind of like an overlay over your map, and other people can draw on it. But you have to have ink to draw on it. So if you run out of ink, you have to end up getting more ink in order to draw more. And so you have to get centaur blood from the orange Graal of Destiny, the Gravity Graal, to continue to draw on your Waygraph. I'm not sure if you can get the quill right away. Maybe what happens is you get your Waygraph and they let you draw on it once, so you can draw one thing, and then other people can draw on it in the world. Like, different characters can draw on your Waygraph just to show you kind of what it is. And when you get to Weathervane, maybe when you get to Weathervane, he's like this giant velociraptor type prehistoric bird creature, and probably it's got big giant feet, they're real thick toed like bird, and it's like weird and spooky and horrifying, and it's pecking at you and jumping and running at you and slamming into walls and getting dizzy and falling on its rear end. And it's got maybe some tail feathers, and it like whips its tail and it throws tornadoes and blows you around. So there, the Weathervane is like a giant boss as well. And when you ultimately defeat Weathervane, perhaps what you do is you get a quill. You actually get, or you get a better quill perhaps. So maybe you do get a quill somewhere else to start, and you get a better quill from Weathervane, which maybe allows you to store more ink in it, or it's more efficient, or it does other things. Maybe you can write in different colors, or it has maybe like better calligraphic capabilities. Maybe, that's a little more realistic. So maybe there's just something to it that allows you to do different things. But I want you to get maybe a feather or some type of quill from the Weathervane boss. And then also when you beat that boss, I thought it would be cool if you could get some type of Weathervane compass. And the compass does certain things, like maybe it can help you, take you to different secrets. But I do think that needs to be very limited. Otherwise, you just end up having a tool that exposes all the secrets. So like I think that there needs to be something there. Maybe it's a compass that's needed for other things. Like maybe I don't know. Yeah, but I think it needs to be some type of cool compass. Um, Maybe even that compass could be like when you're swimming in water as a bombie or something. Maybe it shows you where you're going. I just think that that's so janky and generic that I don't think it's very precious to collect something like that. But that there was a compass when you were swimming as a bombie before. But I also don't want the players to play as the bombie too much. I want them to play as like the human mostly. I think the bombie is just a tool that they can switch into at times. So you have like two characters. But whatever it is, I think there needs to be some type of magical compass. And the purple Graal I thought would also be cool since it's like this, or the Graal of time. I think it would be cool if it can whisper things to you about time, like it can say things to you. And yeah. Over here in the items, I'm looking at this white Graal. So this is like that diamond I was telling you about from Viper's den or hole, where the snake is guarding these tablets of truth and other various treasures. I think there needs to be a ton of stolen treasures throughout here that they've just taken from players. I don't think it all would be over here because that's kind of boring, but I do think there should be some key items and things that are super cool and just treasure troves of sort, and some awesome history facts and things. But that, so like there's just kind of like this white diamond Graal, which is, or not Graal, Graalat, that's very difficult to get. These are icons that I had created for the game as well, about 20 years ago, maybe over 20 years ago or so. Yeah, over 20 years ago, I think for some of them, maybe. And anyway, so like they're very much a part of Graal's history. Again, you just never got to see them because Unix Mad and them stole all the content and started swearing by the sun and moon that it belonged to them, and it does not. But these are definitely officially part of it, and they were made for it, and some of them are even on the message boards. It's just Unix Mad just kept saying, nope, you can't, and lying and claiming he owned everything. He doesn't own Unix Mad doesn't own a fucking cent of Graal. In truth, in truth, he does not. By tyranny, he certainly usurped control over it. But so these are, I think, I think there needs to be 2 mode icons that would be kind of fun. Maybe they just kind of appear like in the corner of the screen, or they just like, fall through the middle of the screen or something. But I just think that there's something about them where you can find out which mode your player is in, and it just needs to be like one mode, not like having your GUI flooded with stuff. But I like the idea of being snailed or jacked, so you get fast or slow. In terms of the full hearts, I did create these things to go with them also. So this was like originally, again, part of the Graal stuff I was creating over 20 years ago. So the armor piece is, and this stuff does belong in Graal. As much as I am defining Glowtica and I am defining this as an official part of Graal history, this is an actual sequel. It's an actual part of the original Graal classic. Dusty and Coco and their friends, who are sitting around on an empire that they didn't create, making little skins for people to chit chat with and reminisce about their friends. You guys don't own it. You guys, mob rule is not a thing. Facts are facts. Not Dusty and Coco's opinions, not Carlos's opinions, not other people, Darlene and Katigo's opinions, not Unix Mad's opinions, not, oh, we have pirated your stuff, so therefore you will never get to work on your stuff again. You'll never get to define anything. Your voice is worthless. Bitch, if you want to fucking kill me, you're going to have to fucking kill me. You're going to have to kill me. You weren't there 25 years ago. You don't get to make the sequel. You don't get to decide what Graal is. You don't get to decide what my games are. You certainly don't get to decide what that company is. That is pure theft. Unix Mad is living illegally in Mauritius off of stuff he purchased with money he robbed from children. It's just, how do you sue somebody who's living 6,000 miles away from you? So, no, you aren't true Graal. No, you don't get to make stuff. I'm sorry. Sorry you don't get to have little chocolates to skin your player hearts with, which is retarded. Oh no, he used the R word. Who cares? So there's this armor piece here, which when you collect it, it's like this shell icon that you would get from different places. And it acts as an extra heart, but you can lose it. So when you have it, and you can only get one of them. So you get one extra heart, and when you get hit, it flies out of you and starts bouncing around and then disappears after a certain amount of time. It fades out. and disappears if you don't collect it, recollect it. But the armor heart acts as an extra heart, so it's not really another full heart. You don't get another full heart, but it acts as a temporary full heart. It's just an armor piece, an extra armor piece. This is the official one-up of the world, of everything, and it's called a cat head. So you know how like Mario has like the one-up mushroom. So for Graal, it's a cat. It's a cat head. So you can get 9 of them. You can get 9 cat heads, and it is one up. And the term one up is not created by Mario. That's actually from old arcade games. So the word one up is sufficient here. This is a one up, but it's called a cat head, and it gives you an extra life. So what happens after you lose all of your lives, your extra cat heads, is you hit a game over screen, and your game isn't over. It's just you lose stuff at the game over. So you keep losing stuff until you get cat heads. And so you have to keep collecting up to 9 cat heads. You can't get more than that. And those cat heads help stop you from losing stuff when you die. So you're going to start losing a lot more stuff when you die if you hit game over screens. So there is an armor piece, and there is a one-up piece. So these are various enemies. Again, the low roam. There's probably some more I can dig up. Some new ones I could create. But yeah, so we're going to start with this, and this needs to be Galen's chaotic castle. I think it needs to be a massive, awesome castle. Not just interiorly, but also exterior. It needs to have a massive presence that's really guarded and has towers and enemies and just all kinds of awesome stuff, and it needs to be a deep, magnificent dungeon. And it's just filling the world with chaos. And I think that it needs to be flooded with these black swirling clouds that you can't get inside of, almost like tornadoes and thunderstorms, and it's just there's sands blowing around it. So you can't really get to it. But yeah, there is maybe just a few more changes since then. It's the Vesper no longer has an E at the end, and I took the U out of Deimos or Deimos. I haven't decided on the official pronunciation. I do like Deimos and Deimos, but just something a little cleaner, shorter, I think works there. I highlighted the area of Audmartar so you can see it in dark here, just so you can see where the boundaries of it are. And a lot of this other stuff needs fleshed out.